Coming up on Network Africa, a roadside bomb kills 3 UN peacekeepers in the Central African Republic. The ECOWAS bloc mediator says he is satisfied after meeting Burkina Faso's new military leader in Ouagadougou. Plus, aid agencies warn of a looming catastrophe in Somalia. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde. The head of the UN peacekeeping mission, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, has sent his condolences to Bangladesh and the families of the soldiers killed in an attack in Central African Republic. 3 United Nations soldiers were killed and several others injured after a roadside bomb exploded in Keita village in the northwest near the Cameroonian border. The peacekeepers had been carrying out a patrol when one of their vehicles hit the explosive device, killing the Bangladeshi peacekeepers. A spokesperson for the UN Secretary-General, Stefan Dujarric, told journalists that the incident happened when the troops were on patrol in the Kubohong axis, about 5 kilometers from the mission's temporary base in the Ouampende prefecture.
We unfortunately have some sad news from our peacekeeping colleagues in the Central African Republic. The mission tells us that 3 peacekeepers from Bangladesh have died after suffering severe injuries when their vehicles hit an explosive ordnance device overnight. A 4th peacekeeper was seriously injured and is currently receiving medical treatment in Bouare, where the wounded had been evacuated. The incident happened when the troops were on patrol in the Kuibohong axis, about 5 kilometers from the mission's temporary base in the Ouampende prefecture. The Secretary General conveys his deepest condolences to the families of the peacekeepers and the people and government of Bangladesh, and we wish, of course, the wounded peacekeeper a speedy and full recovery.
In the meantime, UN aid workers in Ethiopia's Tigray region are exited safely after several weeks of being trapped due to the ongoing fighting. And that's according to the humanitarian chief, Martin Griffiths, who says the workers were able to safely leave Tigray on Tuesday after weeks of suspended movement. He's also expressing optimism that further movements will go on smoothly. The UN had last month announced suspension of aid delivery to the region as fresh fighting broke out. Millions of people there continue to need emergency aid. Mr. Griffiths urged the government and the TPLF rebels to allow the resumption of aid and to ensure the safety and security of humanitarian staff. The African Union has invited Ethiopia's government and Tigray forces to peace talks that's aimed at ending a 2-year civil war in the country. Well, reports say the talks are planned for this weekend in South Africa. Well, Ethiopia's national security advisor to the Prime Minister says the government has accepted the invitation. However, Tigrayan forces have not yet commented. Well, fresh fighting resumed in the northern Tigray region in August, breaking a 5-month humanitarian truce. Or here in West Africa, the mediator sent to Burkina Faso by West Africa's main political and economic bloc, ECOWAS, Mahamadou Issoufou, says he is satisfied by a meeting with the country's new military leader, Ibrahim Traoré. Former Niger President Issoufou added that the 15-member bloc would continue accompanying Burkina Faso's transition to constitutional rule after the country was hit by its 2nd military takeover this year. Well, they met at the Ouagadougou airport, where dozens of demonstrators were calling for more Russian cooperation and chanting anti-France and anti-ECOWAS slogans. Well, ECOWAS had repeatedly urged the junta that took control on Friday to respect a timetable agreed with their predecessors to return to constitutional rule by July 2024.
I am totally satisfied with the meeting I had with the captain. We leave with confidence. We will brief the sitting president of ECOWAS and other heads of state on our mission. But I can assure you now that ECOWAS will remain with the people of Burkina Faso and will continue to assist the people of Burkina Faso in this difficult challenge they face.
Let's head now to Uganda, where the president's son, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, has been dropped from his position as the commander of the country's land forces. He, however, has been promoted to the rank of a full general, the highest rank in the army. He remains as presidential advisor on special operations. Now, it's not clear if this decision has anything to do with his controversial tweets over the last 2 days. General Kainerugaba had previously been commander of the Special Forces, which are in charge of guarding President Yoweri Museveni. On Monday, he tweeted that it would take him and his army just 2 weeks to take over Kenya's capital, Nairobi. But on Tuesday morning, he said that he had spoken to his father, President Museveni, and acknowledged that his tweets had caused the stir in Kenya. The Ugandan government has distanced itself from the social media debate sparked by the series of tweets from the president's son. Well, still in Uganda, the health ministry has confirmed the death of another health worker, an anesthetic officer who died in the early hours of Wednesday. According to Health Minister Jane Ruth, 58-year-old Margaret Nabisubi is the fourth medical worker to die of Ebola in Uganda. A team of medics got exposed to the virus when they treated the first confirmed case who needed surgery, and they have been admitted to Fort Portal Regional Hospital. Well, medical workers have expressed their concerns about not having enough personal protective gear in the first few days of the outbreak. Well, joining us now for more on all that's happening in Uganda is Halima Atumani, the VOA's reporter in Kampala. Thank you so much, Halima, for speaking to us. Let's begin with the Ebola situation that has now claimed, a fourth medical personnel. We know medical workers have expressed concerns about, not having enough protective gear to help them in this fight.
That's very true, Laomi. I think one thing that happened was that right from the onset, when this pandemic broke out, most of the health workers were not ready. They were not set. They were not prepared. Our health system was literally running in a way that you call normal, with less protective gear, no gloves. And at the time, I think many cases came to hospital and many of our health workers were not aware. What I am aware of is that at this particular hospital, there were over 300 medical interns from a university. And then they really had less staff also. So health workers were working overtime, and no one knew what they were dealing with all the cases that kept coming in. And unfortunately, right from the index case, as you're aware, last week, we actually lost the first doctor who worked on the first index case. He was Tanzanian, called Dr. Ali. He passed on. And now we're this morning, woke up to news of Dr. Margaret, or I think she was referred to as Sister Margaret Nabisubi, who also died because of Ebola after battling the disease for 17 days. Yeah, however, what I gathered is that currently, I think now, remember the outbreak was reported on the 20th of September. And so now the Uganda Medical Association informed me this morning that things have gotten much better. There's been, the Minister of Health has beefed up, reinforced the health, all the 5 districts right now, because the disease has now spread to 5 districts. And they've brought in people who fought or dealt with Ebola in the different districts, for example, Kasese, from Gulu. So the health workers feel there's now more support, unlike previously, where you'd have one health worker working for over probably 18 hours and having to repeat that shift over and over again.
All things getting better is definitely good news for the health workers. But let's move away from this now. Now help us understand, more on the president's son, who has now been dropped from his position as the commander of the country's land forces, but has been promoted, to the highest rank in the army. What led to this?
Naomi, let's just, in my opinion, I would say we have a first son who I think to a certain extent is reckless when it comes to tweeting, that he will wake up and decide today, I probably am going to tweet about this. I mean, over the weekend, I kept seeing his tweets, and first he was attacking the opposition head, who is Robert Chagulanyi, and says this Kabobi, calling him Kabobi, we can beat him, we'll beat him in 2021, we'll beat him in 2026. And before we knew it, he started tweeting about the Italian prime minister, talking about how, he would marry her for 100 cows and wondering how am I going to move these cows all the way through customs. And then all of a sudden on Monday, we see him tweeting about Kenya. It's hard to comprehend what exactly goes through the first son's mind when he gets onto his phone or on his laptop and he gets to Twitter. And eventually the kind of tweets that he kept tweeting about Kenya, how, he and his army would invade the country and take over Nairobi in 2 weeks. Kenya and Uganda have enjoyed such a cordial relationship for such a very long time. And I think to a certain extent, this afternoon, when we saw the apology from President Yoweri Museveni coming to apologize on behalf of Ugandans to Kenyans and saying it was not right, it was not correct. In his words, he said it was not correct for a public officer to make such statements. By the time your son places you as a president in a position where you have to apologize to another country, then things are getting out of hand. And he keeps tweeting. So yes, yesterday we saw that he was, to a certain extent, some people are a bit confused. Was it a promotion? Was it not a promotion? But the fact that he's no longer head of command forces. And then remember, previously he made all kinds of tweets. For example, when he tweeted about the ongoing conflict in Ethiopia. And the army quickly stepped in and said, the tweets that you have seen are not on behalf of the army, have not been said on behalf of the army. This is an individual tweet. Yesterday, before today's apology by the president, the Minister of Foreign Affairs quickly ran and released a statement and said, we do not run our affairs on social media. But we have a first son who is now a general. Thankfully, I think his new position does not give him power, so he will not have to speak on behalf of any government institution. So I guess he's now free to treat whatever it is that he wants. Otherwise, it has been, it's been a lot of firefighting for Ugandan officials over the first son's tweets.
And aside the officials, how are ordinary Ugandans, even reacting to what has happened?
I will tell you one crazy video that I have so far seen. I think this is across Kenya, with a video saying, Muhoozi, don't run, come to Uganda, come with your father's toilet, come with this and that. But I think for many Ugandans, it has been two-way. Definitely Muhoozi has his own support. He's gotten what they call the Muhoozi army on Twitter. That, will support everything, irrespective of what it is that he has tweeted about. They'll respect him, call him a general, a president, come 2026, And then, of course, there are Ugandans who are trying to rein him in and saying, General, please, you need to stop tweeting like this. You need to stop embarrassing the country. Now, I think those are probably the majority. And with now the president coming in to say, please, my son does not speak for the country. I apologize to Kenyans. Last time when the president of Rwanda was here, the president of Rwanda mentioned and said, I think someone needs to tweet or needs to start managing General Kainerugaba Muhoozi's Twitter handle. How far that will go, we'll wait and see with his new position now.
All right then, Halima Atumani, VOA's reporter in Kampala, Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Still to come on Network Africa. Kenyan maize farmers are switching to avocado as the global demand soars. More details. Thank you for staying with us on the program. We continue in Somalia. Aid agencies and local officials are warning of a looming catastrophe, with hundreds of thousands threatened by starvation unless aid is urgently provided. According to a minister in the regional administration, 50% of people who need help are not receiving it. Now, the worst drought in decades is driving many people from their homes. Many others are cut off from potential help by a long-running Islamist insurgency.
Isaac Hassan has once again been forced to flee his home. In Somalia's 2011 famine, 4 of his children died from starvation, and the rest of the family fled to the capital, Mogadishu. He returned to his hometown a year later, but now, amidst the Horn of Africa's worst drought in 4 decades, he's again joined an exodus in search of food.
We fled Mogadishu during the 2011 famine. We traveled by car for 2 days to a camp for displaced people in Mogadishu.
Hassan now lives at a camp in Baidoa city.
People became weak because of hunger. We had to flee for our lives. I came to this camp in Baidoa during the month of Ramadan. My wife died of hunger here, and I became helpless. All my livestock and crops were also wiped out.
Hassan is one of more than 1 million Somalis, according to the UN's refugee agency, forced from their homes. Over 7 million are experiencing acute food insecurity. Experts warn that a 5th rainy season is likely to fail. UNHCR field assistant Asmal Brahim says unaccompanied children are among those arriving.
You will find that some people are accompanied, or they don't have children that are going alone, that do not have parents with them. You can understand the level of situation they are in for not having a family, and unprotected children and families, and mother who is giving birth outside this area who does not have something to eat. I think it is very hard even to understand that situation. We understand, but we need or request donors on their support to scale up everything.
Pastoralism and farming sustain over half of Somalia's population, but the parched landscape has resulted in the loss of over 3 million livestock from hunger and a lack of water.
Lesotho will be holding parliamentary elections on Friday, and this is coming after politicians were unable to pass a constitutional reform meant to end years of political instability. The country has been run by the All Basotho Convention, or ABC, since 2017. However, divisions within the party have given it 2 prime ministers over 5 years. The proposed reforms would have amended everything from the role of political parties to rules over floor crossing in parliament, the appointment of senior officials, and also the role of the prime minister. The aim is to make Lesotho less prone to political log jams when disagreements occur, but lawmakers have failed to agree on them back in August, and they failed to pass. The Moroccan government has issued 10 permits for farmers to legally grow cannabis for industry and export for the first time. Farmers in the northern regions of Al-Hichmi, Shefaoun and Taunate will be allowed to produce and sell cannabis for medical, pharmaceutical and industrial use in accordance with a law passed by Parliament last year. National Agency Regulating Cannabis Activity, which issued the permits, say farmers will be encouraged to increase legal cannabis production to meet the need of the market. Morocco has long been one of the world's largest producers of illegal cannabis. Well, Kenyan maize farmers have started growing Hass avocados because of the high global demand for the trendy superfood, and also exporters had cultivated international supply chains. Ibrahim Simiyu is one of them who runs a business that mentors other farmers who are starting orchards and helps market their produce abroad.
Albert Gumo, like other small-scale farmers in Western Kenya, has traditionally grown maize, but he's one of many who have reportedly switched amid soaring global demand to avocados. Against the backdrop of poor sales for maize and changing weather patterns, avocados offer better prices, better yields, and can be harvested continuously for 8 months of the year.
I started harvesting about 5 weeks ago. The first harvest, I got 6,000 Kenya shillings. The second harvest, I got 11,000 Kenya shillings. This third harvest, which is today, after 8 weeks, I probably am going to get 30,000.
He's one of 5,000 farmers working with Ibrahim Simiyu, a retired electronic engineer who started a business in 2018 promoting avocados for export. Simiyu also trains farmers on how to grow quality crops.
Like many of those farmers, we also had to diversify from maize to avocado, mainly because we understood and believe that avocado has got better returns on investment in terms of cash than maize does. That's not to say maize is not important.
Kenya is now Africa's biggest producer of avocados. It exports about 80,000 metric tons annually. From the farm, the produce ends up at plants like Mo Farm Fresh Fruit Exporters. There, the avocados are cleaned and packaged before being shipped to markets in Europe, the Middle East, and elsewhere in Africa. Clarice Wambui is a pack house manager at Mo Farm.
Our biggest market right now for the Hass avocado is in Spain, and also some quantities they go to the Netherlands. For Fuerte, we do the Middle East and also Egypt. And also we have some quantities which go to Turkey.
Kenya has also ventured into the Asian market. In August this year, it became the first African country to export fresh avocados to China.
Well, cassava is a crop that's in high demand in Nigeria, and the Delta State government is leveraging on this by supporting cassava farmers with its Job and Wealth Creation Scheme known as the Youth Agricultural Entrepreneurs Program in Asaba, the state capital.
The 2022 beneficiaries of the Youth Agricultural Entrepreneurs Program, YAGEP, are made up of over 800 young men and women who already own cassava farms. Josephine Iwerim, a cassava farmer from Iseluku and beneficiary of the State Youth Agricultural Entrepreneurs Program, speaks on her experience.
Using money to start up this cassava farm is very, very expensive. But when this program come up, I said I would try my best. Let me know if the program will work for me. So I applied. My name came out, and they give me my starter pack.
300 beneficiaries would be enrolled into the program, including this first batch of 145 recruits in cassava production, now receiving orientation at the government house in Asaba. At the orientation and farmer enterprise training, the chief job creator, Mr. Eric Ebo, urges the participants to make good use of the opportunity to grow their farm.
From time to time, we are going to invite you to be part of this training so that our goal and our desire, which is the mandate of His Excellency the Governor, is that we make you a better agricultural entrepreneur. We're not going to leave you the way we met you. We want to leave you better than we met you as an agricultural entrepreneur. The identification number is...
For the resource persons and trainers at the event, there are unique approaches to deploy in cassava farming in order to maximize profit.
Before planting, they can meet the potential buyers. These potential buyers, they have to agree on the price to buy. In some cases, these potential buyers will also bring out their own money to support the farm. That is to seal the agreement. Based on that, if they're able to support them with farming input, for instance, farm input like a fertilizer, chemicals, these people will not sell to another person. At the end of the day, they will sell to that person that supported them, and that is contract farming.
The Delta State Youth Agricultural Entrepreneurs Program, which is in its 7th cycle, was initiated in 2015 to address unemployment and food insecurity by encouraging young people to take up farming.
So you can always, so this program...
And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.